Alright, everybody, it is a new week, and JP has had its update today, and there's a fair amount of new stuff. Oh, shoot, my cable just dropped. Oh, well, that's staying in. Alright, so, yes, new week on the JP side, and we got some new EXs, and we got, not only that, we got some new Master Ability 2s. How many of them? 2! No, that's a terrible joke. We got 2 EXs, and we got 4 Master Abilities. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work for the joke, but that's okay. We're going to move past that and get right into it. So we're going to talk, let's start with the Master Ability 2s, because they were kind of the big surprise. They are interesting ever since the previous, what was it, 2 weeks ago when we saw all of a sudden Mashiri be interesting for possibly one of the first times ever. But that quickly went by, and now here we are. So let's start with the bottom end, and I do mean the bottom end. And Mish is not a character that I'm completely against. I think he actually does serve some purpose in doing selection quests and whatnot. And he is, and kind of was already, pretty decent with almost effectively instacast. And as for his new master ability, that's essentially what he got. He got 10 speed, and his cast time got a little bit improved. I'm not saying that this character is worth, throwing a ton of resources at it. Obviously, there are other characters that are far more important for the selection quest, such as Lilith and whatnot. But in terms of this character, for a 30 cost R character, it's actually not terrible. I think I was a little bit harder on this character on stream when I saw it, because it's just like, it's effectively 10 speed, and it's like, alright, I mean, But Mish has his purpose, and that is in selection quest, and this will help him compete with that a little bit more. Alright, switching over, let's talk about the ice element, specifically Nasha, who Nasha's original MA was pretty mediocre at just 25% HP. I mean, it's not really that bad, but it is kind of a little disappointing because I'd like to see this character get a little bit more, and she does actually get a bit of an improvement. She gets 10 extra defense, which is good for her. 5 initial hate, which I'm a big fan of hatred. Otherwise, why would I still be doing YouTube? Or, why would I quit YouTube? I just love the hate that sometimes we get. Anyway, not really a problem lately. It's just a bit of a joke. But yeah, Nasha, for a selection quest, she is important for that. Ice Select is not something that I put a ton of time or effort into, as you can see here, but ice is one of the elements that I also just don't really, I'm not that excited about it. Also, she got some berserk resistance, and this is the one I don't like, because the defense and the initial hate makes sense. She likes that kind of thing. But the berserk resistance, basically the element that can do berserk is fire at the time of this recording, unless in the future somehow another element gets into it. But that's her bad matchup, and while Berserk it doesn't feel like a concern. If anything, it probably should have been Confusion. That would have been a nice extra bit of resistance, and now that I think about it, I'm just curious. I don't think she has... No, she doesn't really have... She actually has kind of worse Confusion. Would have been nice to maybe focus on, an element that she was already strong against and could have made her a little bit stronger. It's not like she was going to completely kill off the wind meta, but yeah, honestly, I think it's a so-so one. Like Mish, good for making select quests easier. Other than that, I don't think it's really worth too much trouble one way or another. Next up, however, is Ramada, and Ramada, I feel like, is probably more of a interesting one for globalers, because you guys are getting the Water Select quest this week. Yeah, that's right, I worked a little bit of global news into this one. Now, honestly, Ramada, I think, has been really important. She's been one of, if not the most valuable character for me getting through so far parts of the Water Select quest, and I definitely strongly recommend her into her 120 to make that a little bit easier. From my personal, but looking at what she gets, well, I mean, originally she had 30% TP and 20 pierce attack. Now she's getting an extra 30% attack and a higher paralyze, also with some paralyzed resistance. So it makes her kind of a paralysis specialist. And I do believe earlier today I even got a little bit of this, so it's fine. It's good. It's good for her in the selection quest. She's one of the more valuable characters there. And water is a pretty strong element with its vision cards right now, so this is a good get. I think that Ramada really benefits more than like Mish because of elemental, where the elements are really strong right now. Does that mean I'm running her in any kind of limiteds? Probably not, but you know, it's a decent upgrade for an attacker. All right, and that brings us to our last one, another character that I have, oh wow, I've not even got her into EX yet, isn't that sad? Ayaka, and wind is just one of my weaker elements, but this is probably the best, which isn't saying too much, but you know, originally Ayaka had a 10% HP and 20% stop resistance. Now she gets an extra 20% AoE resistance, and she gets an Angelic Grace +1 use, which, wow, that's actually really good. Angelic Grace, her limit burst, if I'm remembering that correctly, but I do think that is the one. Getting an extra use of that, that's one of the things I've always liked about her. I mean, it can cure stop, which could mean we're going to see more bosses in the future causing stop. But the fact that she can use her limit burst again, it's really vital for saving a team in the middle of battle. It can be frustrating for the opponent if they don't have the AP to whittle your characters down again that fast. So Ayaka, really nice little upgrade. And I think that there's some other characters that can use limit burst twice. I think it's old, but as I said on stream, so what? Yeah, it's honestly, like, I think that Ayaka gets a really nice upgrade here. And as the wind healer, makes sense. She's probably going to be backbone wind healer for a while. I don't see another one coming anytime soon, and Ayaka's still good. So yeah, into her EX, that's fine. All right. Now, we get into the two EXs, and the last two EXs, we're finally here, chat, group viewers, whatever, all of you, we're finally at the end of this road. It's been a long road, and yes, Tactics doesn't have it yet. Well, when the Tactics collaboration finally gets announced, right before the game ends service, well, then we'll talk about it. But for now, for all intents and purposes, this is basically the end of the EX upgrades. Onward to EX Upgrade 2. Man, I'm just on a tangent tonight. Alright, taking a look at Rhaldor's, basically what he's getting attack up, he's getting, looks like dexterity, defense, attack, more defense, HP nodes as well. And it paints the picture of what they essentially want Rhaldor to be. Rhaldor is going to be a bruiser through and through, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. You take a look at his what he's getting up on his support. He's basically getting pierce resistance and shot resistance, which is good. I mean, if you're going to have a unit and you want them to survive to getting close and start beating the enemy, yeah, having these kind of resistances are good because it's potentially a fair amount of range. That being said, we'll come back to this in a second. This one, his old ability that basically when he was taking damage, this ability would power up and then he could deal damage before. Well, this ability has been improved quite nicely, so we're getting attack powers up after being hit, or basically the attack that powers up before being hit, now defense is down before dealing damage. So they've changed the priority on this ability so that it's basically dealing damage after the debuff, and that's the way it should be. So okay, great, that's really nice. Also gets a limit or a bonus from only taking 2 things of damage instead of 5, and that's really important because there are some really strong units. Vision cards and damage are going up, and while this guy is getting a defense and HP boost, the much more like chance that this ability activates at full damage is better. So I'm happy to see that this ability got improved, because it's one of the cool things about Fighter. And yeah, I just really want to see that kind of get improved. So great. And last thing before I move on, I should mention it is now a sure hit ability, which is great. Any option against evading characters is really nice. And now put a pin in that for a second and we'll come back. Last, and his new job level 25 ability is a physical barrier breaker, M damage with a single turn defense boost, which is a cool ability for different reasons. One, I mean, okay, medium damage is fine. Getting rid of physical barriers, there are more and more enemies that are starting to get physical barriers, so being able to remove that is just good. The one turn self-defense boost is actually really cool. This has some good range on it, so you can hit this, or hit your opponent and then move in after. I mean, they're going to get a turn essentially after you get a turn. So if you get this big defense boost against a physical team, really cool. Now, at the time of this recording, and I'm just going to double check Wotv calc because I'm paranoid, I don't know how big of a boost this is, and obviously I don't have the resources right now to just snap this guy up to 25, but it doesn't matter, because I'm not even going to bring up the fact that water's strong right now, and the fact that there are water teams everywhere, and that puts Rhaldor's here EX into question about how good it is. It would be much better if ice was the prominent element in the meta right now, and then we could just kind of do that. Yes, basically. However, that's not the case. But the real thing that bugs me about Rhaldor's upgrade is the resistance that he got is piercing and shooting. I'm not really super worried about that with ice. If anything, right now, for a brawler in this game, I feel like sword resistance would have gone a million miles more. Whether it's, 15% or 10%, sword is just so much more prominent and so much better value here than piercing and shooting. And I realize that piercing with ice is a thing, but then why not magic? I mean, honestly, maybe it's a little bit greedy, but I honestly felt like Rhaldor really needed a pretty big boost, especially with the way things are right now. This just doesn't really get me that excited, because I would really rather see sword resistance, something, or just make him like an all resistance type of like 15% each. I don't think that's too terribly unreasonable for a kind of buff or a character that you're trying to sell as being really, can get into a fight and do it. I mean, Fist just needs so much more help than any other element, and that's why this feels kind of a little lackluster. Now, does that mean I'm not going to build him into EX and try him? No, I will be doing it. I actually really kind of like Rhaldor because he does stand out from a lot of other characters. But in terms of like what some other characters that are more interesting in the Fist category right now, with Queen as well as Tifa, I don't know. Rhaldor's EX, I put it as good. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. I just don't think this is the right time for him to come around. And I really hope in the future that this upgrade is going to make more sense. But, man, can we just get a break for strike units? Alright, but let's move on and talk about our last character today, which is Sakura. And Sakura was a character that I used for a very long time when she came out. Got her to 99, was right before the EX. Even after EX started coming out, she was still really good, especially in combination with Yuna on farm teams because of large AoEs and everything like that. I've had my Sakura at a level 99 for a long period of time. But as EX continued to move forward over the course of last year, something that became very apparent is Sakura was way too squishy. And, fine. Makes sense for the character's design and everything like that. She's not a heavily armored character. That being said, she did get too squishy to the point where she was dying all the time, and that was a problem that I started having with Garble too. Garble's EX has went a long way to fixing a lot of the problems with Garble. So coming into Sakura's EX, I was very excited about what we could potentially get. And honestly, I know a lot of people were really positive on her in the comments pre this. I'm not entirely sure, but let's get into it. What does she essentially get? She gets a little bit of HP, a little bit of speed, and a mass load of magic. Now, this isn't necessarily all bad news. It looks like she's also getting a little bit of luck and a little bit of dexterity, which, or wait, no, that's the same one. It's just looking very blurry at that tiny little vision. The stats essentially are not really going very far to pushing her to being a more stable unit like Tiny Hands. I mean Garble. And it makes me a little bit concerned. Again, probably going to EX this character almost immediately and get her all the way up to job level 25. That's not the thing I want to bring up though. So what does she get? First of all, her speed passive up. Or speed up passive is also getting magic penetration, and I do believe that it is magic resistance penetration, so it's like getting through. I'll even just double check. The translation was a little weird for me, and I checked around. Obviously, you know, being data mined, it's a little bit easier, but let me just do it right now. You know, just... So let's see here. Strengthen the Cherry Blossom Thunder, quickness, magic attack resistance, quality ray, and spirit. So the way I read it is that it's basically more spirit penetration and more magic resistance penetration. And that's good, because that's the direction that Sakura is going. This upgrade makes a lot of sense. There's no way you're not running it. She's gonna be one speedy little girl into the future. And speaking of being speedy, her other upgrade, which was Spark Flash, now does damage before resistance down. That's really important, but also gives Sakura a 3-turn agility boost. And honestly, I'm wondering if she's supposed to be an evade mage at this point, because honestly, it's a lot of agility, and maybe that's what we're supposed to be getting out of this. I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to try building a evasion Sakura. Why not? It's working for the light element right now. Why not? Also, her last ability, getting back to being a little more serious, Magic Barrier Break, and large damage on this ability. So it's a single hit, it's 30 AP, it's not the highest cost, it gets 3 uses, and it gets rid of magic barriers. Honestly, Sakura looks like a absolutely solid damage kit, but it does make me a little bit concerned for the fact that she's probably not going to have any survivability into the future. I don't see it that. Like, this is a character where I'm really uncertain about how to build her. Because normally I can see the character. Like Rhaldor, I get it. Just physical defense, you're not worried about mages. He's going up against very specific damage types. I get it. Sakura is just not the HP. And she will get more HP into her, like up to her job level 25. That's not the problem. I just don't think it may be enough to survive some of the high damage dealers that are out there right now. And I just don't know if you can build this character for luck. I'm going to try, but that doesn't mean that I am just confident that it's immediately 100% a certainty that it's going to work. But so here's the thing. I'm not going to give any kind of overall rating for Sakura at this point, because I just don't know. it seems totally plausible to build her as a agility evasion character, maybe throw her on some evasion espers, and it just works really well. But until I try it and until I have proof of it, I'm not super convinced. Definitely she's going to be capable of dealing a lot of damage, and the Wotv calc numbers when posted I think will back that up surely. But I really just don't know whether or not she's a good investment of light resources when you already may be tapped for light resources. Either way, for PvE content, she'll probably be pretty annoying for the enemy, for capable of, debuffs and everything like that, and getting a lot of turns in. But anyway, I've given you a lot of this information. Let me know what you think of the master abilities and the EXs. I'm definitely not saying Sakura is bad. I don't think I've had enough time, and I kind of want to see the full numbers before I absolutely had a really good idea of where I think this character is. So there you go. But I'm going to cut this because I'm rambling. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think, and see you next time.